Nerdrotic.com.
We have some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, and quite frankly, it's a shocker. They cast a white guy as Superman. Superman Legacy, James Gunn taps David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan to play Clark Kent and Lois Lane in DC Studios film. Now, I just released a video on the main channel. Please go check it out after this about The Flash basically being a flop and superhero fatigue overall setting in. Does this casting change my mind on that? Absolutely not. But as it looks right now, as far as looks are concerned, this isn't looking too bad to me. Following months of audition tapes and in-person screen tests, Warner Brothers and DC Studios have their new Clark Kent and Lois Lane. David Corenswet has been set to play Superman, while Rachel Brosnahan are on board to play Lois Lane in James Gunn's Superman Legacy. The decision comes after the two were among the few selected to test in front of DC co-chairs Peter Safran and Gunn, who is directing, in full costume and makeup for the parts. To be fair, being cast as Superman is not easy. You're going to be compared to a lot of actors, including George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, Tom Welling, Henry Cavill, which is made extra hard because you're not only going to be compared to what Henry Cavill has done, you're going to be compared to what he could have done because he could still play a pretty damn good Superman. The test took place over 2 days with the men. One of the days saw the three actors in full Superman attire. Sources close to the situation said that each actor had closed test deals that would expire after 2 business weeks. So clearly all parties wanted this sorted out before a potential SAG-AFTRA strike or a Film Actors Guild strike, which could go into effect on midnight, June 30th. You know, if they just waited 3 weeks, they could have made this announcement in Hall H at Comic-Con with no Marvel competition, and they didn't. Warner Brothers has yet to say whether it will be attending next month's Comic-Con in San Diego. Well, I think this answers that question. So there is still a chance that the two could be introduced at the studio's Hall H panel, which they have not agreed to yet. That said, if there is a Film Actors Guild strike, Corenswet and Brosnahan could not attend, as strike guidelines state no actors can promote any projects during a strike. Now, another explanation as to why they rushed this announcement and didn't wait for Comic-Con, aside from the fact that they're not going, is maybe to deflect from the abysmal failure that is The Flash. You know, the film James Gunn said was effing amazing, and it wasn't. The Superman Legacy casting process has gone on for months, with Safran and Gunn wanting a thorough search to find the new leads for this new franchise. With the two roles now locked up, Gunn will now look to fill the shoes of Superman's arch nemesis Lex Luthor, who is rumored to be Bill Skarsgård, wouldn't be against that, as well as other supporting characters like Kent's friend, Jimmy Olsen. Now, we know Superman Legacy is set for a worldwide release on July 11th, 2025. That is a little over 2 years away. The world can completely change in that time. We may have a different president. We may have an old president, or we may have a previous president. Who knows? The project was announced earlier this year when Gunn and Safran laid out their plan for the first phase of this revamped slate, and Superman Legacy was front and center as the project that would help launch this strategy. That presentation also included plans for a new Batman pick, Batman Brave and the Bold, which has recently tapped Andy Muschietti to direct, and The Authority. And that's the problem. So now the DC reboot is really getting going, and we still have 2 films from the previous DCEU to go that are going to be absolute flops. And I would go so far as to say as the Batman 2 will be another lame duck film, because we're going to have 2 Batman. Like I said, James Gunn has an uphill battle with this because there has been so much damage to the DC brand, and DC fans have deserved better than this. I know they get a bad rap because they tend to be a little more passionate than Marvel fans, but that's the way it's always been. That's the way it will always be. So hopefully James Gunn can weather the storm and maybe stay off Twitter and just focus on this movie, because it's going to be a shitstorm, because there's going to be the Snyder fans and the Henry Cavill fans. And I'm a Henry Cavill fan. Now, David Corenswet doesn't look that bad. A little scrawny, better hit the steroids, bud. And James Gunn here does confirm the casting on Twitter. But quite frankly, I think about the writer's room, which has a couple of red flags. Now, it does have Drew Goddard, who helped develop the Daredevil series, which is the best thing Marvel's ever done. But it also has Tom King, one of the worst comic book writers of all time, and Christina Hodgson, who wrote Birds of Prey and The Flash. I hope the movie is great, but I wish them luck because they are going to need it. Again, we have the Blue Beetle that's coming out in August, which is going to probably flop about as hard as Shazam 2 did, and Aquaman 2 with Amber Turd, which is going to probably be the worst flop of them all. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens. Then they take a year break. I think we do get Joker 2 in there, but that's got nothing to do with the DCU. And I don't think that's long enough. Now, I know that doesn't sound sexy to investors to maybe just focus on one movie instead of a bunch of phases. And I don't think it's a good idea to introduce the Authority that early, and that's a little bit of a deep cut for comic books, but they're a knockoff Justice League, and you're going to introduce a knockoff Justice League with 2 gay lead heroes ahead of the actual Justice League, and we all know why. So to me, it sounds a little bit like more of the same. I'm not totally against the Authority being introduced maybe in their own separate universe and do a TV show on that, but that would end up being what they really are, the Boys Light. So tell me what you think below. We have a Superman. They didn't announce it at Comic-Con, and they announced it just a couple of days after the catastrophic second week of The Flash. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next Nerdrotic Daily.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.